we are here to look back for 4 years and to discuss what does it mean for everyone, this initiative, and what does it mean for laureates who are with us now, and how does it influence on their lives and on their initiatives on their local communities. And let me start from the question to Nubar. Nubar, please, just a few words about how this initiative got started.
Thank you, Andre, and thanks for agreeing to host this event this morning. So I think many of you know the background of Aurora, but let me just very quickly tell you that this was an initiative that sprung out of some 20 years of partnership that Ruben and I and many other people have had that has been dedicated to the development of Armenia and Armenians across the world. We met by chance, like many of these partnerships happen, and decided that we couldn't rely on everybody else to take on the challenge of figuring out how to help Armenia become a more relevant, more vibrant place for all aspects of human activity, education, culture, science, technology, business, environmental, you name it. And after some 15 years of work along those dimensions, there came the occasion of the centennial of the Armenian genocide. And while that is something that means a very different thing to Armenians because of the losses that our ancestors suffered and the trauma that those survivors then had to endure, we realized that we needed to depart from only that narrative and start thinking about a different aspect of it. You see, when Armenians were subjected to a genocide over now a century ago, the word genocide didn't exist, and the world's consciousness that that was a violation of human rights was not really in people's awareness. There was a notion of mass atrocity or crime against humanity, but the world did not actually think about these things. And therefore, Armenians spent 40, 50 years largely kind of recovering but not having a way to express themselves. When they did, they were extremely and understandably focused on justice and achieving recognition and justice for what happened. And there we stood 100 years later on that focus. But the part of this that had not been focused on very much, although there are obviously many, many stories that reflect this, are the people who saved Armenians by the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. Armenians didn't have a chance to thank them, and we found that 100 years later we needed to find a special way of thanking them. Ruben, I'm just filling in for you. The question was, how did all this get started? So just to finish the thought, we thought that rather than going back and finding, and we did a little bit of this, descendants of the people who helped us and thanking them, that what we should do instead is to go and find the very same spirit, the very same souls that helped Armenians 100 years ago, because we believe that they're all alive. And they're all alive in different people. They're alive in our three laureates who are sitting here, who you'll hear from. They're alive in the nominees and the finalists of this prize. The idea was, let's focus a very large light on those who, without any desire for recognition, risk their lives to save others. And that's how the Aurora Prize and the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative started, was to say, how can we recognize saviors? They don't think of themselves as saviors, but they are, in the truest sense of the word, saviors. How do saviors give a second chance to survivors? And what can survivors do to continue that cycle of saving and surviving and recovering and saving others? And that is a call for everybody to engage in humanitarian activities.
Thank you. I just want to add one other thing. For me, I said in American University 2 days ago, it's critical what we're doing also not only to the world, but for ourselves, internal, for my own feeling, my own kids feeling differently about who we are, what they see themselves, why they want to be by choice Armenian, not only because of the respecting the parents, not because of the passport or whatever other document identify their nationality, but by heart and by soul and by feeling. And I thought it was very critical time for all of us when 2015 coming, when we talked with Nubar about how we can change this attitude from remembering the past but looking forward attitude. And I don't know Bar mentioned, but Aurora and Ararat, it's a very critical element also for all of our vision with Nubar from 20 years ago, when we started to think about future of Armenia. And we said, Mountain Ararat, the Noyan story, it's a global, key, symbolic element which really represents something very important for us, but very important for the world. And we thought this will be great to really establish something which can help any other nationalities, any other religion to become part of this discussion. What means we have a second chance? I've been in Rwanda to celebrating 25th anniversary of the Maison Shalom with Margaret open in Burundi and now operating in Rwanda. And I saw his kids, and I saw kids who graduated now universities, and they grew up in the Maison Shalom from school, now becoming successful in living in Canada, in Rwanda, in the United States, and you feel it like, again, this is exactly what you want to see. These kids got a second chance. Now we not keep the life, but we got education, and we hope we will get really something different for the future, and they will give back, and this is why they joined our challenge. I was so thankful to see it all.
Thank you, Ruben. So please take your seat in the hall, and we have an opportunity to watch a small video which summarizes results of the premium for the last 4 years. Please switch on the video.
3 Armenians co-founded the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative and launched it on March 10, 2015 in New York. They did so on behalf of the survivors of the Armenian genocide and in gratitude to their saviors. Today, the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative is a network of projects that focus on providing support to urgent humanitarian needs and outstanding, selfless humanitarians. The Aurora Prize. The Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity was established in order to transform Armenians' gratitude into action by celebrating and supporting the heroic actions of today's self-sacrificing humanitarians. Over 4 years, more than 2,200 nominations have been submitted from over 125 countries in more than 20 languages, putting forward 1,399 candidates. After professionals evaluate the nominations, the selection committee chooses the annual Aurora Humanitarians and Laureate. The committee is comprised of 15 Nobel Peace Prize laureates, former heads of state, and human rights activists, and is chaired by Academy Award-winning actor and philanthropist George Clooney. Since its inception, the Aurora Prize Selection Committee has shortlisted 14 humanitarians for the prize and chosen 3 laureates for their exceptional impact, commitment, and courage. The 2019 Aurora Prize laureate will be announced during the Aurora Forum in October 2019.
Marguerite.
The 2016, 2017, and 2018 laureates, Marguerite Barankitse, Tom Katina, and Cho La-Ong, have nominated 9 organizations that inspired their work. 23 projects in 15 countries already benefit from this largesse, impacting the lives of more than 850,000 people in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. The Aurora Humanitarian Initiative continues to provide support to those on the ground who put themselves at risk while helping those in the greatest need and expanding the Aurora impact around the world. Gratitude Scholarships. The descendants of the survivors of the Armenian genocide seek to express gratitude to those who helped save the victims of the genocide by supporting educational initiatives. Aurora has already offered scholarships to 64 students and young scholars to gain a meaningful education and internationally recognized qualification. The program also includes the Amal Clooney Scholarship, the Charles Aznavour Scholarship, and the Lamia Haji Bashar Scholarship. On October 12, 2018, Aurora launched the Vartan Grigoryan Scholarship, seeking to inspire young scholars and researchers to study the Armenian experience of the 20th century. Aurora Engagement. Aurora promotes efforts to preserve and promote Armenian culture and heritage. Various institutions have received $2 million to date in support. From 2016 to 2019, 9,599 volunteers have expressed a desire to get involved in preparations of the Aurora Weekends. Media outlets around the world published more than 3,000 articles and stories covering the Aurora Prize and the projects of the initiative. The Aurora Prize social media channels reached over 198 million people. Contributors and partners. Since its founding, more than 3,000 individuals and organizations have been inspired to join the founders and donate towards transforming a nation's gratitude to action. More than $53 million has been spent to implement the programs of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative. Around $16 million came as contributions by generous supporters of Aurora. The rest was donated by the co-founders. The Aurora Humanitarian Initiative is transforming the Armenian experience into a global movement, committed to inspiring everyone to act based on a recognition of our common humanity. Ararat Challenge. The Ararat Challenge is a video-based crowdfunding campaign set to increase the impact and reach of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, whose projects combat poverty, improve healthcare, and provide education to those in need. At the core of the campaign is Mount Ararat, a universal symbol of renewal and second chances. The Ararat Challenge is open to everyone. The participants follow the simple steps to create their own Ararat Challenge videos and share them with their friends online, inspiring others to embrace Aurora's mission of empowering successive generations of humanitarians. We believe that empowering individuals who save lives, despite great personal risk, offers hope to those in need and inspires global action. Join us and give life and hope to those with the most urgent humanitarian needs.
Great. So just let me ask you just one question for all of you. How do you see the role of this prize and how your life has changed since you got this prize, and how does it influence your local communities? Please, Margaret.
Thank you. You must know that before to be laureate, I fled my country, and I was on the top of the list of criminals who were wanted in my country. Imagine, from to be criminal, you became a laureate for awakening humanity. It changed completely, and in my country, they don't know, the regime doesn't know what to do. And imagine you are in a refugee camp, not in a house, but under a plastic cover, and suddenly they announce that you can send your children back at school, back to university, and the mothers who were raped also. I have so many women who were raped were with me. No hope, crying in a refugee camp, and suddenly somebody gives you a hope. And also, those young men who were castrated, humiliated, 2,000 young men in a refugee camp can return in university. With those who were castrated, no hope. Then for me, what I can say, it's amazing. We changed completely, the camp became a paradise for hope. Thanks to Aurora.
Thank you, Margaret. Please, Chulayung.
Thank you, ladies and
Keep
gentlemen.
closer, please.
Before I was awarded Aurora Prize, I was a criminal in the eyes of our Myanmar government. I was arrested 4 times. I spent 11 and 12 years in the prison. But I didn't miss my hope. I'm trying and trying to my community to give the education. Because of the education, the government is, Myanmar government is trying to be illiterate our Rohingya people. So I am facing this one to educate our children since 1962. At that time, General Newey got the power from UNO, and also they discriminate year by year, month by month, to Muslims community in Rakhine State. And now they are also discriminated in Myanmar land. So in 2010, there were 3 parliament members in Myanmar parliament. Now in 2015, no one was elected for parliament. No one can stand for the vote. So they are discriminating like this. So that this is the very important for education. So I am giving education to the children to avoid illiteracy. Illiteracy is the weapons of Myanmar government against these Rohingya people. So that I am doing this. After 2012, we were also drove from downtown to rural areas. Still now, Kofi Annan also gave instruction in his report that to relocate all these IDPs in the town in original place, but not yet done. They are also lying across the wall that they have done everything for our IDPs for Rohingya. They didn't want to listen our Rohingya voice. So after getting this Aurora Prize, they a little bit respect me and also allow me to travel for Vatican and for this Yerevan for this Aurora Prize ceremony. So that this Aurora Prize, before I get this prize, I nominate 3 NGOs. One, Medicine Sans Frontier. One, Mercy Malaysia, Dr. Faisal, and he will explain. Then another one is ICMC. They are working across the wall, very good job for humanity for health care. So that now, again, I met with Uzote, Secretary of the Aung San Suu Kyi, to change our national registration card, 3 folding cards, with the scrutiny card. But Aung San Suu Kyi order to Immigration Department to exchange this one with scrutiny card. But the government didn't, the Immigration Department didn't do it. Now, in June, last June, I met Uzote. I request him, with this scrutiny card, I can stand for parliament member in 1990 election. Why I cannot travel now from Rakhine State to Myanmar, Burma land? So please allow us to travel with this national registration card to go to Yangon and abroad. So now he promised us that after the rainy season, he will send a group of immigration members to our Arakan state to do this job. And again, it is very long, so again, I will get another chance that one of the Armenian is World Bank director in Yangon. He wanted to meet me in June, last June, so that I met with him. Then he asked me that he want to meet, that I am the laureate of Aurora Prize 2018, so what you need? So I request him to construct all the road in our IDP's area, because student cannot attend student and patient cannot attend the schools, and patient cannot go to hospital because the road is very bad. The government didn't repair this thing because of this area is Muslim area. So I request to this World Bank director, he is responsible for Myanmar, Laos and Cambodia. So he is Armenian. And then before I come here, I met again. So he will go to Sitwe in November. Then he will organize some people and ask whether they need this thing is in need for our Rohingya people, student and patient. Patient cannot go to hospital, so that there is a hospital. Also, Mercy is operating this hospital, and another one in Chokten, in Rakhine area. So the Mercy is doing this thing. Another hospital was also built by some NGOs, but there is no electricity. So I request him for electricity to open this hospital for the patient. So I can do, for this Aurora Prize, I can do a lot of work. This is for Aurora Prize.
Thank you very much, Chula Yung. Tom, please, floor is yours.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, my name is Tom Katina. I think I'm in the minority here. Amongst the three laureates, I'm the only one who's not a criminal. So I feel kind of bad. I don't know. Maybe when I go back to Sudan, they'll throw me in prison, so I feel some solidarity with my brother and my sister here. I mean, Aurora was a huge help to me. It came along at a time when we almost had to close as a hospital. We had severe financial problems, and it helped us at a time we had no medicines for the full year. So that was really a huge help to us. I think more importantly was the publicity that Aurora gave me, and more importantly gave the Nuba people. These are people that have been persecuted for 1,000 years. And if you could have seen how proud they were that their problems and their struggle were put on the world stage, it was something really to behold. And I think this story has, I hope, a good ending. I can't say that the Aurora Prize and Aurora led to the downfall of their genocidal dictator, but this past April, Omar Bashir, who was a dictator in Sudan, was thrown out of power. And I think that Aurora in some way contributed to that. So I think myself personally, and on behalf of the Nuba, I think we have a large debt to pay to the founders and to the people of Aurora. And we will try to continue this cycle of gratitude and action as we go forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. May I ask you just one question? Tell please a few words about organizations you have shared your premium with.
For me, I had 3 organizations. One is the Catholic Medical Mission Board, and there are 2 that you'll be hearing from, Sarah and Martin Rubino. We'll be talking a bit later. There's also a group called Action Kanchanaburi, which is a very small and very efficient German NGO that does work with leprosy patients, mostly in Africa and Asia. And the third is African Mission Healthcare, which is an organization based in Kenya and the US, which works to support mission hospitals all throughout Africa.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat there, and we are going to the third part of our very brief session. Probably you know that the idea of this premium is to support the local activities, the local humanitarian missions to be both global and local. That's why each laureate has to share his or her premium with 3 other organizations which incentivize him or her to do what he or she does. That's why we know in each year 3 organizations which were supported, and now we have the case to meet with representative of 2 organizations, and I'd like to invite to the podium Mr. Ahmad Faisal Pirdaus, please. Dr. Faisal is representing Mercy Malaysia, one of the organizations which 2018 Aurora Prize laureate Chula Yung choose to support as one of 3 organizations from $1 million prize. And I would like to invite to the podium Sarah and Martin Rubino, please. They are volunteers who, until very recently, were working also in South Sudan as a part of Aurora Fellowship program. The fellowship was created by CMMB, Catholic Medical Mission Board, who were one of 3 organizations to receive part of Tom Catena prize from year 2017. By the way, we see 4 persons here, not 3. As I mentioned, and probably the most important participants is sleeping now. We will be not too loud, not to wake up him. It's Max, and particularly today, he's celebrating his 3rd month here with us. Let's welcome him as well. So please, I would like to start from Dr. Faisal. Tell a few words, how do you envisage this premium, Aurora Premium, and how your organization was supported through this premium?
Thank you very much. I'll be brief and I'll try to be quick. First of all, thank you to Aurora and thank you for the organizing committee for inviting me, and a big thank you and gratitude to the founder and co-founders, Mr. Afian, Vardanyan, and Gregorian, for your wonderful initiative, which now has broken barriers. Secondly, of course, my deepest appreciation to Shola Hung, Marguerite, and Tom Katina for their fantastic work, fantastic humanitarianism. When Mr. Cho started in 1962, I wasn't even born. So, I mean, great work, and I think Aurora has done a great thing in recognizing these people. Going straight to the point, when we learned that Mr. Cho had nominated us, we were at a critical juncture in our work in Rakhine State in Myanmar. We had fantastic support from around the globe, especially the Middle East before that, around 2016, 2017. But the money, as always in humanitarian action, the money always dries up when it's no longer in the news. I mean, is there any more news, people, about what's happening in Cox's Bazar, for example, yeah? On the front pages of any newspapers or any TV or radio channels? They're all gone. Nobody remembers Cox's Bazar anymore, yeah? And I think Tom will agree with me, there's not much news about South Sudan either, yeah? At the moment. So it was great that at that particular time that Mr. Cho nominated us, and thankfully the founders and the selection committee chose him, and we shared the US $1 million, yeah, with 2 other organizations, and that helped us continue our medical and health programs in Rakhine, giving critical services to the people in Rakhine. And we actually had a major role to play because a lot of bigger Western based non-governmental organizations were not actually allowed to continue to work in Rakhine by the authorities. So for reasons which will be too long for me to elaborate here, we are still there in Rakhine, and we have kind of the biggest access in Rakhine State up till now to provide healthcare. I think the second point, I think, Andre, that I like to make is that I'd like to congratulate the Aurora Foundation and the selection committee as well for being not just generous, but also very broad in your perspective. And you've chosen laureates from across the field in different areas and from different geographical areas. And you've chosen beneficiaries from different creed, color, and religion. I think that's superly important in this day and age. And thirdly, I'd like to also say that the fact that the Rohingya are, as everybody knows, majority, well, that 99% of them are Muslim, and that the Aurora Foundation is based here in Armenia, and that this is a predominantly Orthodox Christian country, actually makes a lot of difference out there. It actually makes a lot of noise that resonates, that there's goodwill, and that there is good intention among all people. And last but not least, on a very NGO, humanitarian NGO kind of perspective, I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Cho, especially, but also the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative and the Selection Committee for agreeing, at least in 2018, that apart from Médecins Sans Frontières and ICMC, the International Catholic Migration Committee, which are giants in the humanitarian world, Tom would know them, they also allowed for Mercy Malaysia to be a recipient. Mercy Malaysia, by size, is perhaps, although I said we have the biggest access in Rakhine, but that's for other reasons. But by size, we are like 1,000 the size of Médecins Sans Frontières, if you must know. Yeah? Médecins Sans Frontières is like 1,000 times bigger than us. So for us to be in the same level, at the same level, and to be accorded the same recognition was a great thing, not just for us, but for all southern-based national, regional, and international NGOs. So thank you very much. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Faisal. But let me ask you just one more question. One of the deepest idea of the Aurora Prize is to ignite the process, which will last, which will continue. How do you envisage, in your particular case, the sustainability of the process which were ignited by Aurora Initiative? How they will continue, how they will be sustainable and effective?
Right, there are 3 points I'd like to make there, very briefly again. Number one, Aurora, the foundation, the initiative, the selection committee for the prize would probably have to think about a way to sustain financially, perhaps not in the same amount, yeah, or in the same manner, some of the projects that some of the nominee organizations had received from the laureates funding for. It's not unknown in the humanitarian world that while emergency funding and while one-stop funding and stop-gap funding is critical, like I just mentioned in our case, and like Tom I think mentioned in his case with his hospital, it is also important to sustain. So while it may not be possible to give the same amount every year to the same organization, but perhaps to the same cause, there could be ways to think about. If it's not a direct grant, then perhaps a loan, yeah, or something like that. Second point is, I think, where some areas are concerned, like education and health, as well as water, sanitation, and hygiene, it would be good if Aurora can also look into providing technical support. Technical support meaning support in kind rather than just funding. That could be more sustainable in a way. You could, for example, bring experts from the US or from the West over to the field, over to Kenya, to Burundi, to Sudan, to Myanmar, to Bangladesh, wherever. And this technical support may be more sustainable than financial support itself. And last but not least is, I think, advocacy. I think going forward, especially the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, would probably have to think of a way to be involved in some of the advocacy work that goes around some of these issues. So Tom mentioned that, that Aurora's funding had helped perhaps make way or pave the way for some change at the government level where he is working. But then again, Mr. Chaw probably mentioned that the situation for the Rohingya is as dire today as it was 20 years ago. And I can testify to that. In Malaysia, we have all sorts of refugees, and we work with Rohingya refugees in Malaysia as well, apart from working in Rakhine State in Myanmar. And I can tell you that the Rohingya refugees are the least able, the least capable, and the most difficult to assist, because they've been deprived of education, for example, for so long, that any job offer or any job placement will just not work for them, as opposed to other refugees. So thank you very much, Andre. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Faisal. I'd like to ask Sarah. Sarah, you have worked for the hospital, Santa Teresa Hospital. How did you feel it? And what is your main impact on the situation? How do you envisage it?
Hi, thank you for having me here. My impact is rather small in comparison to a lot of people here, but I'm a nurse midwife. I worked at St. Teresa Hospital. I did rounds on the pediatric ward, and I also delivered babies. And it's a small impact, small babies too. My main work, I tried to help keep little babies alive. A lot of babies between around 28 to 32 weeks are born because of mothers get an infection or malaria, and it takes them a long time to get to the hospital, and they go into premature labor and they deliver their baby. And if you're born before 32 weeks there, you really don't have much of a chance. But we were able to make some babies survive past the golden hour. So that's a small impact, but small, tiny lives are alive because of that.
Thank you, Sarah. Martin, you are not a doctor yet, as far as I know. You are an engineer, and how do you see your impact, and how do you see this sustainability, how to prolong this effect you did in South Sudan?
Yeah, part of the funds from the Aurora Prize went to the construction of a new surgical operating theater, surgical wing, maternity ward, and blood bank, which were much needed at St. Teresa Hospital, where Sarah and I were both serving. So I have a degree in engineering, so I went to work on the construction there and to supervise some of the work there. And I guess the hospital was running for a long time before, but the capacity was very limited. So the surgical blood bank and the wings were really needed for the improvement. There's one doctor there, Dr. Taban, he's an excellent doctor. He's always trying to learn more and expand his capabilities, but the existing capabilities was very limiting for him because there's only certain procedures he can do, and he's very limited. It gets frustrating. Now with the addition of these, the surgical theater especially, he's able to expand his practice, learn more things, expand the capacity of the hospital, and be able to provide better care to the people there. Because currently now, if the procedure is too complicated beyond the capacity of the hospital, they have to get sent somewhere else, and with the condition of the roads and everything, it really affects the health of the people and decreases the chance of survival.
Okay, if I may ask a personal question, what are your plans for the next? You have come back recently from the South Sudan, and what are you going to do then?
Yeah, well, I guess we're really grateful to be here in the presence of everyone, people that have dedicated their whole lives to service and to development. So I guess the real great thing about the Aurora Fellowship through CMMB was that we were just ordinary people. We saw our heroes that had done all this, and we're wondering what we can do. So the Aurora Fellowship gave us that opportunity to see where we needed, what can we do, and then now it's the time for the next step. So we're still like a little bit unsure. We would love to go back to the hospital with Max and do that. So that's our hope for the next plan. And Aurora gave us that first step, and then now being here is very inspiring to take that next step forward.
Yeah, it's kind of like a chain of gratitude. The Aurora Prize was given to Dr. Tom in gratitude for your service. And then, in turn, he gave it to CMMB, and CMMB created this Aurora Fellowship program, and we were able to be financially helped out so we can go to areas of great need. That's the reason why CMMB created that fellowship program. So we do hope to get a chance to go back sometime soon in a way to continue on gratitude, and hopefully some young people here will also have that spark and fire and make that very scary leap of faith to continue this gratitude as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please take your seat, and we are very close to finalize our very brief dialogue, and I would like to invite to the podium the president of Carnegie Corporation of New York and Aurora Humanitarian Initiative co-founder, Mr. Vartan Gregorian.
A few weeks ago, I gave a talk, and I shocked people by quoting from Brecht, a radical East German writer who wrote, and I've mentioned this before, baby Tom, cursed be the land that needs heroes. Because it means we become so abnormal, so out of the way, that we have to find heroes to give meaning to our lives. More than ever, we need heroes as examples, and you've seen this already in our choice of people. They're reluctant heroes. They never knew they were heroes. Each of the Carnegie, not Carnegie, I'm confusing now, Aurora Prize invests in people who are role models. Yes, they may have their defects. They may be controversial, but they represent the best. When Christ, I'm quoting your language, Tom, when Christ had spoke of a Good Samaritan did not want a statue after him. Good Samaritan did not want publicity after him. He taught what was decent, what was Christian, what was humane thing to do. And that's why we're trying to return to find our humanity. I lectured also about another event, so I forget, you can say I've not slept for 27 hours. Pascal is my favorite religious scientist, or scientist, religious leader who was scientist. He said, comparing the universe with nothing as a physical thing. You know, 7 billion people running around in the whole course of universe, they're nothing as entities. But we know our insignificance. We're not socioeconomic units, born to consume, to procreate, and to die. We're also spiritual beings in search of meaning. Meaning, what's life? Why are we here? What role do we have to make the world better for our next generational successors? Because we quoted Einstein saying, scientists ask why. Philosophy, religion, and social science, to what end? Rome was a very well-run city under Mussolini. But what was the end? As in St. Augustine, city of God, he says, all right? That's I'm quoting. Rome was a very well-run city, but where was it going? Productivity in modern society is not enough. We need also moral element in that. And this brings me to Armenians now. As you know, Armenia is a poor nation. Armenia survived Ararat. We're on the shadow of Ararat, second hope was given to mankind by God. And in return, God has been generous enough, because we relied on our efforts historically, we have a republic now. This republic, as you know the story, nurtured on the eve of its creation, as some historian wrote, a chaos within shape, emphasizing that, what Armenia was 1918, later Soviet Republic, now independent republic. But one thing was important. We remembered who helped us as human beings, not as Christians alone, not as Armenians, not out of charity, but also out of philanthropy. The difference between charity and philanthropy is charity deals with sympathy, pity, and so forth for phenomenon of certain phenomenon. Philanthropy deals with the causes of that phenomenon. And so what you see in action also, two great philanthropists here who are investing in philanthropy in order to cope with root causes of the problem. And the last point I'd like to mention, there's a question, of course, why don't you spend all the money in Armenia? Why do you have to go all the way to Nuba Mountains? Why do you have to go? Because the time has come for the little Armenia playing an international role to symbolize we were saved by well-meaning people, Christians, some Muslims, some Kurds. Sharif Hussein of Mecca, 1915, issued this edict to protect Armenians in what is happening now, Deir ez-Zor, where many more people are being killed in Syria. Why? Because they're human beings. Human race is one. God did not create 30 different Adam and Eves, only one. Bani Adam, as we can say in Persian and Arabic. One other point, Armenians have good memory. As I was mentioning today, we have an instance where Gladstone's library in England came to Carnegie Corporation to say, Lord Gladstone spoke about all persecuted people, including Armenians. So what are you going to do for Lord Gladstone's library? All right? Act of gratitude. The president of Armenian Republic, who at that time was ambassador to England, UK, he came forward. Now they've built, are you ready? Gladstone Forum made possible by grateful Armenians. Why? Because we want to demonstrate, to reconcile truth and charity. I'll tell you a funny story because I witnessed it. Armenian Sisters Academy, pageantry. They told this little girl not to lie, but also they told the little girl to do something else, to tell Joseph and Mary, there is no room at the inn. And the girl could not lie. She said, there is plenty of room at the inn. Please come in. We've been waiting for you all these years. Ruining pageantry by explaining the truth that you cannot lie, you cannot deny other people's humanity. So when we do all of this, what are we doing trying to say? We were victims, but we no longer are victims. We have a role, historical role, to support other victims, not because they're Christian, not because they're Muslim, not because they're Buddhist, not because they're even atheists, but because they're human beings suffering, yearning for a future as human beings. And I'm glad this little nation, Armenia, can witness for Rohingyas, for example. At the time, many Muslim nations did not come for it. I'm glad we've witnessed all the other minorities. Why? Because we were one of you, and we continue to be one of you, because decency is not luxury. Philanthropy is not luxury. We're not giving out of pity, but we're giving out of conviction that we need a peaceful world in which people can recognize each other's humanity, each other's right, and therefore give charity a good name, good philanthropy a good name, give humanity a good name. Thank God we believe in heroes as role models, and thank God you have many of them here. So thank you very much on behalf of Little Armenia for a greater humanity. We're happy to be servants of humanity.
Thank you.